So as for the rest of the meeting, this has been recorded, and we will still use Slido for any Q&A that you have for these slides. Still the same code or the same QR code. So if you have any further question, you can put it there. So we are going to present two changes that are coming to the system, and these are currently in our test environment, and they will be released in production at the end of March or at the beginning of April. So this is the timeline that we have for them. The first thing is the new self-registration workflow. So if you want to access EMA systems, like SPOR or ARIS, UPD, even our service desk, you need to have a user ID and a password for the EMA, and this is done centrally by the EMA account management system. So what we have done is we have redesigned the self-registration form. So we have reduced the number of steps that a user has to do. We are collecting less information, so we are trying to make it easier for the user. And we are also improved the security of the registration form by introducing a new CAPTCHA with a modern look and feel. We are also removing one checkbox. We will see in the slides what I'm meaning. That was using specifically for getting ARIS, access to ARIS as an individual. So this will be granted to everybody as a birthright from the release of this functionality in production. So here you can see on the left the new self-registration form, and on the right how it looks like. So we can see that the main fields that we are collecting remain the same. So you are still required to provide your first name, last name, email, the password that you want to use for our systems, and optionally the mobile phone. What we have put in the self-registration form, and you can see in the left in the first black box, is that the user agreement with the privacy statement is now directly on this page, and we have introduced a modern CAPTCHA. So you can see this on many websites. Most of the time you are not required to do anything, but if for any reason the system detects that this request could be coming from a bot or from a strange location, or any signal that the request could not be coming from a human, then you are challenged to select some pictures in order to prove that you are a human. In the old registration form, and this can be seen on the right as a black box, there was this checkbox if you want to get access to ARIS as an individual since the beginning of the creation of your account, and this has been removed. But as I said, this has been removed because this access will be provided as a birthright to all new self-register users. So there will be no need to request this access or to check this checkbox anymore, and this will be provided to everybody. So in theory, any person that is registering with us can access ARIS as an individual, not in behalf of an organization. That will remain the same and will still be required to request the role to get access to ARIS as in behalf of a specific organization. The second page that we used to have in the self-registration form was the privacy statement with the user agreement. And this, as we've seen, has been moved to the first page. And there is still the link to the privacy statement for the EMA account management system that is providing all the information that we are collecting and the different data processors. The other steps that we have removed is the need to set up security questions. This set of information is not used anymore by the system. It was used in the past to recover a username, but this kind of functionality has been considered as obsolete and not secure enough anymore. So this one has been removed. And as well, the old CAPTCHA where we were telling you to provide the answer of a sum has been removed, and a more modern one is included in the first page. Last is the confirmation form. So after you provide all the information in the first form with the first name, username, you will see here that the system will compute a username for you. And then you will need to verify the email that you provided in the first form. This is to actually check that the person that is registering is the actual owner of the email. So we are sending a token with the number and letters to the email. And this token now has an expiration that is clearly stated in the confirmation form. So as soon as you click confirm, then the system will create your account in all the different EMA systems, and the same username and password will be used to access the different EMA systems that are connected to the EMA account management platform. So this is the first change that we are going to introduce. And as I said, it's a simplification. I know it's not a big change, but it's still a simplification of the registration. The second change is a little bit more broad, and is a new role that will be available in the platform. So we have received many clarification about the approval model that we have in the platform, and many organizations complain that they have to register a user administrator for the different platforms. Like they need to have a sports super user, they need to have an Iris user administrator, a CTS high-level administrator, a UPD user administrator. So what we have done is we are introducing a new role that is called external organization administrator, and this role will be a role that will be able to approve all the requests for a specific organization. So once this role is validated by the EMA with supporting documentation, this role can approve or reject all the other requests to become an administrator for all other EMA run systems. So we are trying to streamline the process, and this role is completely optional. So if as an organization we want to keep segregated the different user administrator for each platform that the EMA is offering, this process can remain unchanged. But if you prefer to have just one set of users that are overarching the full set of applications that the EMA is using, you can use this role. What is the benefit of this change? We are reducing the number of administrators that you need to have in our systems to approve and reject roles. And then we are also reducing the time that we need to validate that the user is coming from a specific organization and has the rights to represent that specific organization. So this will speed up also the approval process with the time that EMA needs to verify documentation on your side. And as soon as you have this role set up, then we completely delegate to the different organization the approval of all other platforms. There is a but. So this process will be valid for all EMA platforms except for EudraVigilance, both for EudraVigilance human and vet. For this, always the qualified person for pharmacovigilance or the responsible person for an organization will be always validated by the EMA. So this is not affecting the EudraVigilance system, where the process will remain unchanged. I see someone raise an hand, so if you want, please, and you are able, please ask this question. No? Okay, so I will continue with the slides. So here we have some example just to clarify how this concept works and how this will be affecting how users are requesting access to the different platforms. So this is the current model. So we have John that is working at the EMA, is working in the team that is validating all the requests that are coming from an external organization. So all the first users that are coming for the different EMA systems, the first time they want to appoint a user administrator. So we have Alicia, she's working at Pharmaco, and she wants to be the CTS high-level administrator for her company. So what she needs to do in the EMA account management platform, she needs to attach supporting documentation to prove that she is entitled to represent the organization for CTIS. This request will be approved by John. Then we have Brian. He's a colleague of Alicia, but he's working, he needs to work on ARIS, and he wants to be the ARIS user administrator. Again, this request needs to be validated by the EMA, by John, and Brian needs to provide supporting documentation. So even if Alicia and Brian are working for the same organization, EMA will need to validate both requests. Now, this is the scenario where we have appointed an external organization administrator. So Jane she's still working for Pharmaco, so the same company of Alicia and Brian, and she's requesting the organization administrator role. The first request is still approved by John at EMA, and still supporting documentation is needed. But then when Alicia and Brian, they need to request access for CTIS and ARIS, this approval is not provided by the EMA anymore. There is no need anymore to provide supporting documentation. This request is going to Jane, that will approve or reject the request for the CTIS legal administrator and the request for the ARIS user administrator. From that moment on, then Alicia and Brian will be responsible to approve the request for ARIS and the request for CTIS for Pharmaco. But what will happen is that if a user is coming and they want to request access to ARIS or to SPOR, and there is no user administrator for that platform, still Jane will be able to approve it. Instead, in the old scenario, if Maria, that is working at Pharmaco, wants to request access as a SPOR user and there is no SPOR super user for that organization, the request will be automatically rejected. So with the external organization administrator, we are adding a layer on top that is preventing requests to be rejected. This is a point of reference for the organization for all the EMA running systems. So here I have some questions that could arise. So is it mandatory to have an organization administrator? As we said at the beginning, no, it is not. You can keep the current working model that you have, but this process, of course, can speed up the approval of the different systems and can reduce the workload on the EMA, but also can facilitate the work of an organization. There is no limitation in the number of organization administrators. We always advise to have at least 2 for contingency. So if one is not available, then the other one can take over. But this is a limitation that we don't have also for all the other administrators. So even for SPOR super user, we always advise to have at least 2. So there is no limitation in the number of super user or administrators that you can have. How do we request access for an organization administrator? It's just another role in the EMA account management platform. So the process is always the same. You go to register.ema.europe.eu, the EMA account management platform. You sign in, you click on Manage My Access. You select the external organization administrator. If you are the first for your organization, then you attach supporting documentation and you submit the request. So is this applicable for the QPVV and responsible person in ultravigilance? As we said at the beginning, no. So this is applicable for EMA running system, but not for ultravigilance, both for human and vet. Those persons, the responsible and the QPVV, are always approved by the ultravigilance registration team, and they will need to provide specific documentation in order to become the responsible person in the pharmacovigilance system. The other question could be that, is this organization administrator able to access all other EMA systems? No. So this role will only grant access to EMA account management. So if a user wants to access also ARIS, CTIS, or ultravigilance, they will need to request access specifically for those systems for that organization. And that is my last slide. In the annex, you will find the current model and the new model in a workflow way, but I think with the example we clarified what was needed. I will go now to the Slido. Okay, so I will start only with the questions that are related to this. So will admin rights given with old scenario for EMA accounts stay valid or need to be renewed? No, so there will be no need to renew the current permissions that you have in the EMA systems, and that will remain the same. So there is no need to change. And then I'm seeing questions that are still for, will you publish this Q&A? I think we will publish the recording of the session. And for all the questions that we are not able to answer now, we will take them offline and we will provide them in a document.
Carlo, if you could just refresh a little bit, we cleaning up a little bit the questions, so you will only have the questions from related to this topic. So if you could just refresh, we will, yeah, thank you.
Can all industry users export? No, this is still, let me do one thing. Okay, so does the new organization admin get an overview of the admin roles already in use? Yes. So the same functionality that is available for the different user administrator, super user will be available also to the organization admin that will be able to list all the users for his or her organization. So that will be available in the same way that is available to the other user administrator. If you already have an old EMA account, is there a need to create a new one in order to get access to ARIS? No, there is no need. You can use the same account for ARIS. The only peculiarity of ARIS is that the login form is different, and we are having this, and we are going to have this for more and more systems. So if your password is not working for ARIS, use the forgot password functionality that we have in the EMA account management system. That will reset your password and will align it for all EMA systems. What is the documentation required for the external administrator? Is the same documentation that we have example for the sports super user and for other user administrators. So the documentation will be the same. It's a form that you need to compile specifying the organization and should be signed by someone from that specific organization. Could a sports super user easily become an organizational administrator? Yes, they will need to request this in the system, providing the required documentation. Then EMA will evaluate that this role has been, this user has already a role approved. So the checking on our side will be quicker, and that will grant you the access. But the role will still need to be requested. So there is no automatic mechanism that will provide current super users or current user administrator for other systems and will move them to external administrators. This role will need to be requested. So the external administrator, there is no need to be based in the EU. Of course, we are dealing with organizations for some systems that are not EU-based, so there is no need for this. This one we have seen this. There is a question specific to ARIS. So we are planning to have a new role that can see not only all inspections, but the different cases for a specific organization. I know that the ARIS team is working on this, but I'm sorry, I cannot provide a timeline there because it's something where I don't have control. So I will try to pass this question to the ARIS team and see if they are able to provide an updated timeline. Yes, so even if a user has all the user admin role for the different systems in the EMA, the role still need to be requested. As I said, there is no automated mechanism that will promote a user with the current super user role to be the external organizational administrator. So the role will need to be requested, but as I said before, this will facilitate our life because we see that you're already approved for that organization, so the checks on our side will be easier. The role will be available by the end of March or beginning of April. So we are planning to release this in the week of the 28th or the 4th. So we are finalizing the last things, documentation update, and we'll make this available by this time. So as I said, the role is not there yet. So it's planned to be released end of March, beginning of April. And I think that's all.
Yes, thank you, Carlo. There is no more questions. So thank you very much for attending.